Hey, it's Bob out here at Serenity Hill again. Whew, it's a hot day. It's already up over about 90 degrees. It's gonna get worse, but that's all right. What I'm doing today, I'm out pressure washing logs. I've got quite the pile. See if I can turn this without the camera flashing out. Maybe it'll adjust. I've got a pile that's all the way up to the bumper of my truck. And that's just a part of it that I'm working on getting stripped using the pressure washer to strip the bark off of them. It ran out of gas. And you can also see I wear my safety glasses while I'm doing this. I don't know if it shows up or not. You see all that stuff on the safety glasses? Yeah, there's a lot of little pieces of wood in there, little pieces of bark. And every one of those would be in my eyes if it weren't for these. And I get quite messy, but I tried the bark spud and the draw knife, and on some of the stuff it'll work fine because it's got some of them are fairly smooth and it'll work all right, but most of them have so many branches on them, like this one I'm working on right now. It's got 3, 4, 5, probably 7 or 8 different branches on it that are a real pain. So I'm gonna walk you around the house here. I've got something exciting that's going on. Here I've got a big pile of sawdust. Got for free. Sawdust gets used in the mortar. And why would you use sawdust in mortar? But that is the best practice for what they call this putty lime mortar. And I'm gonna bring you around the back of the house here, and I'll show you what I've started doing here. All right, so here I have got a bag of Portland cement, a bag of hydrated lime, a bag of loose cellulose insulation. I got some sand, I got some water. I got coarse sawdust that's been soaked in wood or soaked in water. And here you can see a bunch of logs that I've got, some of them split because they're too big, some of them in rounds. And these are the next ones that are going into, drum roll please, into this. Now I've got this covered. This is my first bit of cordwood. Whoops, excuse me. This first bit of cordwood that I've done, 2 courses. It's a wall about 8.5 foot long. And you can see what it looks like. I took a break from this because I quickly realized that I can put logs in a wall quicker than I can get them peeled and get them in the kiln to dry. So I'm taking a break from this. You can see the mortar in between. It's all tuck pointed to smooth it out. Probably not the best job in the world, but hey. And the mortar is really, you can see how it's kind of darker here and lighter as this mortar dries, and it takes days to really dry because that moisture from the sawdust and the mix that you're using, it takes a while to dry, which is good because that gives it more strength. But you can already see places where it's drying more, how it's turning lighter. This will eventually turn almost as white as that hydrated lime. So you'll have the contrast of the cedar logs and the lime, or the white. And now in between here, if we can see, I'm stuffing the cavities in here with cellulose, that insulation. Now what I'll do is I'll put another layer of mortar up in between the logs and up over the top of the logs. And once I get that mortar, before I start putting more wood on top of that mortar, as you see, like I did with these logs, set them on top of the mortar and set them down in there. I will stuff this cavity with that loose cellulose insulation. So basically what I have is I've got approximately 3 inches of mortar, 10 inches of cellulose insulation, and another 3 inches of mortar. The logs themselves, being 16 inches long, have an R value of approximately 26. And the cellulose insulation has even higher R value. So I'm basically going to end up with walls with an R value of approximately 26, which is pretty outstanding, because you cannot get that kind of R value rating without a lot of expensive tricks in a 2x6 wall, let alone a 2x4 wall. So pretty excited. I'll be doing some more cordwood, and I'll next time I do some, I'll video making the mortar and the like. Now, this is where it's interesting. I've got an electric box. I'm at the height now where I've got an electric box to go in. And what I will do is I'll put my next layer of mortar, but I will cut a log, one of these bigger logs. I'll cut like a cavity in it that this box will rest into, pound the nails into it to hold it straight, and that way this outlet will be locked into that log, and it will be held secure, and the outlet plate will be flush with the wall instead of sticking out from it. That's what a lot of people do, is they'll take these and they'll mount their boxes on the outside of the wall, so sticking out, and their electric's in the outside. My electrical wiring will all be inside the insulation space and covered, and my outlets will be flush to the wall like you would see in typical construction, but they'll actually be embedded into the log, so they'll be nice and stable and secure. Okay, took a little trip up to my toolbox that I've got in our bedroom, and what I'm doing is I'm getting my moisture meter. There's a lot of people that wonder, oh, well, are you letting your logs season? Because people say, oh, they need to be 1 to 2 years. You got to let them dry 1 to 2 years. Well, I don't have 1 to 2 years, so I built a solar kiln. And this is a moisture meter. Got pins in it, you plunge in, and it reads the moisture content of the wood. So I'm going to go out to the solar kiln, where it's about 130 degrees right now, and show you taking some measurements on some of these logs, some that I put in yesterday, some that have been in a couple weeks, some that have been in about a month, and compare the rating, the moisture level. Now, what I've been doing before I bring logs in to use in the house, I'll go ahead and take my moisture meter, check the moisture level, make sure it's at or below 12%, or around 12 and a half, but preferably 12 or below. And then I'll put that on my little cart, and I'll bring it up here to process to put in the wall. If it's not down to 12%, it goes back on the stack to get a little more drying. So let's head out there, and I'll show you this neat little jewel. Bought this at Home Depot. It was like $39.99. Instead of saying, well, I've had them out there for X amount of time, I think that should be long enough, they're good enough. I don't operate that way. I want to know, so now I know. All right, so here we are on the way out to the solar kiln. Ground's kind of wet out here. It's one of those things I should have thought of. I'm uphill where I'm cleaning my logs, and it all flows down here, so maybe I need to do a little ditch work. Oh well, can't think of everything, I guess. All right, whew. Hot and bright in here. It's not yet 90 degrees outside, and that's what it is in here. This thing, it looks like it pegs at about 125. All right, so here we go. And turn it on. And it's set for wood. And here's some logs that I put in just yesterday. (27.7%). And here's a log that's been in here for several weeks. You see that? 10.6% moisture on this log. This log has been in here, this particular log has probably been in here for about 8 weeks. It's down to 10.6% moisture. I got some logs over here that I've had in for about 2 weeks. Look at that. I know it's upside down and you can't probably read it. I'm not a very good cameraman. I'm working at 11.3%. Here's some that I got split. .7%. So these logs have not been out here forever and ever. They don't have a long drying time. They haven't had 1 to 2 years. Here's another log. This log has been in here for 3 weeks. 10.6% moisture. And that's a good sized log. So conventional wisdom says, oh, it takes 1 to 2 years. You got to air dry them, you got to this and that and the other. But you know, you can also get creative. And this solar kiln, which I'm getting ready to leave because it's hot in here, is getting my logs dried in very quick order, and it's saving me a ton of time. I will go back in. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. This is something that come on now, shut off. There you go. Have to hold it down for like 3 seconds. See this here? This is from a black cherry tree. Yesterday I was out cutting a cedar tree. It's about 35 feet tall, about 20 inches wide at the base, and it fell about a foot to the right of where I wanted it to. And this old gnarled black cherry tree, it didn't grow straight, came up and then it bent at almost a 90-degree angle, and then another twist and turn before it came up. And some of the branches on that cedar tree caught it and broke it. I thought, well, it's done for, because it took the top right off of it. And I felt bad about that. But there was this big burl on there. And so I cut that out. And I think when I go back there next week, I'm going to bring some of those black cherry logs out here and cut for some boards. But I don't know if you can really make out some of the detailing in that. But yeah, a black cherry burl. Pretty good size too. That sucker's heavy. Here, I'll put my size 12 boot up there so you can get a reference for how big that thing is. But yeah, that's going to be a neat treasure. I'll cut that into some slices and make some really neat accent pieces.